actually right in front of Manzanita Village, which is one of the residence places that UCSB offers on campus. And we also have freshman dorms specifically called the Chi 5.
We also have some university-owned apartments, which are on West Campus, which is like a mile off campus, and there's also a freshman dorm over there. So if you wanted to bike to campus or take the bus or like walk with your friends or something, that's also an option for you. My freshman year though, and my sophomore year, I stayed on campus. I actually lived in Manzanita my sophomore year, and then I stayed in Santa Rosa my freshman year in the Black Scholars Hall, which I think Alinta will talk to us a little bit more about.
Yeah, so I also stayed in the Black Scholars Hall in Santa Rosa my freshman year, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made for myself because I got to meet so many lovely Black people, such as Tamla, who ended up being my mentor. But other than that, it was a really great resource for me as a Black student to reach out to other Black students, Black staff, and Black upperclassmen as well. But especially for Black students, we highly recommend the Black Scholars Hall because it is just like a small hub for Black students especially, and it's a safe space for Black students to thrive and live with each other while going to UCSB.
The way housing works at UCSB, so after you get in, you go into your housing portal, and if you're coming to UCSB with a friend, or if you want to live with a specific person, you can choose to be roommates with them. If not, you can choose to do random roommates, which is what I did. What about you? Did you do random, or did you?
I actually selected my roommates.
Oh yeah.
I met them through IG and stuff, which is totally an option if you're scared of doing random roommates. You can go on social media such as Instagram and Facebook to look for roommates and kind of gauge what they look like if that's more comfortable with you.
Exactly. So you can do either or, and look at us, perfectly fine. And so the way it works there, so most people typically stay in triples, but there are doubles that are available for you. I stayed in a triple my freshman and sophomore year. What about you?
Yeah, I stayed in a triple as well, so I just thought that it was better for me because commuting from campus is kind of a lot.
Coming from the ocean side of campus towards the mountain side, we have what we call the Arbor Walkway. The Arbor Walkway includes the Arbor, which is a small convenience store that has all of your student essentials, from testing materials like Scantrons and pencils to your snacking essentials like chips, drinks, and there's a coffee shop on the side of the building, and delicious sandwiches and soups made daily. Directly across the Arbor is the Davidson Library, which houses one of the largest reserves of special collections in the UC system. This is great for if you're interested in learning more about the city of Goleta where UCSB is located, or more about the campus's history. I myself got access to the library's special collections when I co-curated an exhibit for the 50th anniversary of the North Hall takeover, which we'll talk about later. The Davidson Library has several floors for you to study on, overlooking the ocean and the mountains, and the higher you go, the quieter the floors become, so be aware of this when you pick a place to study. The library also has resources for students such as laptops, chargers, and of course books to rent. You can also speak with a librarian in your field of study if you need help locating materials or building a bibliography for a research project. Between the library and the Arbor, as I said, is the Arbor Walkway, which has several chairs and tables for our organizations and clubs to table, and they'll have information about their clubs. At the beginning of the year, they will usually be recruiting students to join their clubs, as well as just give information about what they do and what type of events they're going to be putting on for the year. So definitely check out the Arbor. Back to discussing North Hall. So as I mentioned before, I and several of the entities on campus were able to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the North Hall takeover about 2 years ago, which was an 8-hour-long protest conducted by 12 Black students back in 1968. As you could see in the pictures, they barred the doors of this building and threatened to unplug the single computer containing all of the information that the school had at the time, demanding to receive equitable treatment and resources as Black students at the institution. What came out of this was a set of demands, some met and some yet to be met, including what we have today, which is a Black Studies department and library space for students to be able to congregate and study at. From that point on as well, Black students have developed a BSU demands team to push for more resources, and in 2012, we were able to receive 2 Black psychologists and the Diversity Initiatives program in admissions, which is the job I'm doing right now as I speak. This last year also brought on a demand for an Office of Black Student Development, which has been created to serve and retain current Black students at UCSB. All of these things and the activists who carried out what Black students needed is a powerful point in UCSB's history, which we hope to maintain and build on such a legacy.
We're right in front of the Student Resource Building. We call it the SRB here. And it's home to a lot of resource centers for people of differing identities, cultures. So what you can find in there is the ADCRC, which is the African Diaspora Cultural Resource Center. We have the Chicanx and Latinx Resource Center. We have the Middle Eastern Resource Center. What other resource centers do we have?
Asian Resource Center,
And American Indian Resource Center, and we also have the Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity. And all of these spaces, they put on weekly events. Even in COVID, actually, they have events online, and they all have mentors that you could go to there. So they have different interns that are students that you could talk to and get, help on things. And there's usually a director of each of the resource centers that you can go to and talk about, what you need culturally, or just as a student on campus. What other resources do we have, y'all?
Yeah, so some other resources we have are like DSP and EOP. DSP is a disabled students program, so students with different abilities can get accommodated for testing and also just like for classes in general. Along with that, within the DSP program, students can get accommodated like for notes for class, and so it's actually a job plug. So if you want, you can be a note taker for different classes. So you would just go to the classes, or since we're doing everything in a virtual setting, you will watch the lectures, take notes, and then upload them every week so that students can have access to that material in case they weren't able to take notes or something during the class. And the other resource I mentioned was EOP, which is the Education Opportunity Program. It's geared towards first gen and or low income students, but all students are welcome to use the resources. And so in EOP, you have access to counselors who can help you plan out your academic schedule. I have friends who've used EOP counselors or talk to EOP counselors to plan out a 4-year plan so that they can know what classes to take every quarter. You can also talk to them about financial resources.
Yeah, so the tutoring offered here is called CLAS, which is actually covered by your tuition. So we highly recommend that you take advantage of it because it is additional help with the classes that you're taking. So the way it's structured, it's in a smaller classroom setting with a TA and a small amount of students per class. And they cover subjects such as chemistry, biology, physics, English, math, and so many others. And so basically, if you're struggling in a certain subject, CLAS is always a resource for you because, again, you don't have to pay extra. And it really helps you a lot to improve your grade. I would know because I have used CLAS resources and they've helped me greatly improve my grades in some of my more difficult classes, so it is highly recommended that you take advantage of it.
Yes, I can attest to CLAS. It's really helpful with chemistry classes and biology. Also taking language classes is really helpful for that too. In the SRB, there's study rooms that you can go in, you can go into the cultural resource centers to study. They also host different events in there as well.
So events like our Black Family Weekend, which we would have had hosted there, happens every year.
And also it's a good plug for like late night. They have events and they have food in there that they'll sometimes give out when they are done with their events and stuff like that. So there's always something happening in the SRB.
And here we have Stork Tower, which is one of UCSB's greatest icons, along with our mascot, the Gaucho. It is also the tallest building in Santa Barbara, which we take a lot of pride in. Some fun facts about Stork Tower include that there are a lot of different chime sounds that the tower can produce, and actually UCSB offers a class for those who are interested in studying about the different chimes that Stork Tower produces, and they basically like go to the tower and like test out different like sounds and chimes. So that's really cool if you're interested in it. We highly recommend that you look into it. Stork Tower is also a center for activism, even recently with COLA and the grad students protesting to raise wages for hardworking TAs and graduate students on campus. Another fun fact about Stork Tower is that under Stork Tower we have KCSB, which is a radio station, basically like stationed under Stork Tower, and it basically is just a studio radio station run by students for students. So if you're interested in that, we highly recommend that you look into it. They constantly advertise when new episodes come out. So if you're interested, just ask for more questions.
So as you can see, this is one of our bike lanes. There's a lot on campus, so make sure that you're looking both ways when you cross. Here's one of our crossings, and here we have our bike racks, which are all over campus. So you can park your bike just like this, if I know how to, and you can get to class.
And here we have Campbell Hall, which is one of the major lecture halls at UCSB and also happens to be the biggest lecture hall on campus. With 800 plus seats, this hall can be very daunting to new students, but UCSB tries to be accommodating as possible by making sure that lectures offer sections. Sections are basically just a smaller, like what the word says, section, of a small amount of students paired with a TA, and you basically go over the material covered in lectures in detail, and during this time you can ask for specific questions and go over the material and get questions answered for things that weren't covered in lecture. If sections are not enough for you, there's also office hours that you can attend, which are a little more interpersonal. TAs and professors offer office hours, so we highly recommend that you take advantage of office hours at UCSB because they are very one-on-one and intimate, and you can be very intimate with your professor and TA with questions on the material or research opportunities or anything that you're passionate about. And just to build that connection between the student and the professor / TA, and yeah.
The Multicultural Center is a space designed by and for students to empower and advocate for marginalized communities. They host free educational events like lectures and discussions, as well as free performances, film screenings, and art shows.